Hello, Phil Conrad here, and I'm going to show you in this video how we can use GitHub Codespaces as an alternative to Replit to work with Python Flask web applications. So I'm only doing this because at the moment Replit is down, which is sort of frustrating because we've got, just about a day left to get our web applications finished for the Spice closing day. So let's see if we can do it another way without using Replit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to github.com Spice 2022, and I'm going to go up here and say New Repository. I'm going to make sure that the repository is in the Spice 2022 organization, and I'm just going to call this phconrad flask demo, and I'm going to make it public. I'm going to add a README file. I'm going to use the Python gitignore. So let's go down and find Python. It's there. There it is, Python. And I'll, since I'm making this public, I'm going to use an MIT license so that nobody can take my fancy web application and make money from it without my consent. All right, so now we have a basic repo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to Codespaces. So under the Code tab, there's the local, where you've got this URL, but there's also this Codespaces tab. And I'm going to click Create Codespace on main. And what this is going to do, it'll take a minute to set it up, but it's going to throw me into the VS Code editor inside my web browser, where I can edit, and I will also have a shell window very similar to Replit. So this is very similar to Replit, but the difference is that the editor is actually VS Code, which is kind of an industrial strength editor. So it's taking a minute to set this all up. And all right, here we are. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make a new file. So this is very similar to what I would do in Replit. I'm going to do main.py. And into main.py, I'm going to take the code from Lab 8, the sample Flask application, and I'm just going to copy and paste that in. And so there it is. We can see that I got the extra new lines, which I'm going to get rid of here. And now that I've got that in there, I'm going to come down here to the terminal window, and I'm going to try to do Python main.py. And it comes back and it says no module named Flask. So this is where I'm going to use Pip Install Flask. Now, all through Spice, I've been telling you don't use pip install, use Python poetry, blah, 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 because that's what Rebel uses. Here, we're just going to use plain old pip. So pip install Flask. And that will install Flask. And now, also, down here it says, do you want to install the recommended extensions for Python? Sure. So I'll click Install. It will install all of that. And then my VS Code will be just a little bit nicer for Python. Come down here. Let's try this again. It may take a minute because it's working on installing those extensions. All right. So now we have Python. Do I want to do Jupyter Notebooks? Not right now. So I'm just going to close that window. Let's try this again. Python main.py, and it comes up and it says this is development server, and we get this little message: your application running on port 5000 is available, open in browser. And look at that, there is my Hello World application. So that's pretty cool. So let's see what else can we do over here. So if I come back, and if we come back to the files here, and I make a new folder and call it templates, and then inside templates, I make a new file and call it layout.html. And then inside templates, I also do home.html. And I think that we have some sample code over here in Lab 8. If I go to the right part of Lab 8, which I think is part 4, where we get into, the navigation bar with Bootstrap. So we are going to make, here's layout.html. So I'll go ahead and take layout.html. actually, is that the full layout.html? I think the full layout.html is in part 3. So let's go again and get the full layout.html. It's in here somewhere. Here it is. Oh, that's home.html. Here's layout.html. All right, so we'll copy that and we'll put that into layout.html. And it's got some extra spaces in it, but we'll worry about that later. Let's also get our home.html, and that one looks like this. Come back over to here, go into home.html, paste that in. Again, extra spaces, we'll take care of that later on. And then the code here, I believe, is we're going to do from Flask import render template, and then it will be return render template home.html. And let's see whether, if I come down here and Control-C and restart this, python main.py, and open in browser, there it is. All right. So you can see that we can at least get started with Python Flask. Now, there are some other elements here, such as connecting to the database, dealing with the secrets, dealing with OAuth, and I will have to figure out which of those work or don't work in this other environment. So I will try that out, and also see how do we define secrets, because that's another thing that we will need if we're going to actually build a full web apps in this environment. But what I hope you can see is that this is an alternative to Replit. One other thing I'm not entirely sure about is, if I close this window, does this continue running or not? So over here we have this web app, and right now it seems to be running. I'm going to pull that out into another tab here and refresh the page. That seems to be fine. If I close this tab and then refresh this page, seems to still be working. So it looks as if perhaps this can work. I don't know how long it will stay running. With Replit, it continues to run, but I don't know whether with this Codespaces, whether at some point it will time out. So this is all TBD, but at least we have an alternative if you want to just continue working on your app. Now, of course, if your code is on Replit and it isn't anywhere on GitHub and you don't have it saved anywhere and you can't get to the code, we may be out of luck, but at least you can perhaps try to recreate some of what you had and work on some things in the meantime. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for watching.